Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever your, current time of day it is. Hello. Hope you're having a good one. The link to my Discord isn't working. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I think I probably have an old one there, so I need to kind of update it. Um, all right. I'm not as heavily active there as I would like to be right now. It's always time for coffee. So let me say hi to everyone. Um, hey, Sash. Hey, Nether. Hey, Peter. Gonna go for it. Jen's Little Corners here. Tony Designs. What's up? Mistaken Reaper 22. Hello. How are you doing? Okay. We've got Osman Cometh. How you doing? Mr. Shadow Kitty. What's going on? Yay! And Jen's little corner was first with a meow. Well, today, so there's been a lot of stuff happening. Um, I've been going after some like really not nice people on the Twitters, particularly the ones that are asking people to be, to do different, awful things to themselves to prevent COVID-19 infection. Hello, Golden Coin. How are you? All right. Thanks for sending the link to my Discord. I'm trying to be more active, but right now my job, I work in academia, and guys, academia is on fire. So, and I don't mean like this place is lit, although customarily I do quite enjoy my job in academia. It's quite lit and awesome, but and I like what I do. But it's really really busy, and I know there are professors out there who are struggling. Hello, Dinah Cat loves me. I know there's some professors out there who are struggling, and man, they're having a hard time with the online format, particularly the ones that are used to traditional instruction. But hey, you know, oftentimes in academia, it's publish or die. Well, it's evolve or die. And I work with primarily a teaching institution, so they're not as driven by research. They're driven mostly about success of their students. But they do have a research program to teach students how to research. So that's nice. Sash says, I've been after some different awful people on Twitter lately myself. If you don't know what an MAP is, a map is, you don't want to. I guess not, man. Probably not. Man. So I'm just going to kind of jump right into it. Y'all like it? And with me is my newest co-host. Here's Nina here. Guys, she was hopping in my lap earlier, and I'm like, Nina, I have to run this show. And so I think she's mad at me right now because she's sitting on her soft pillow and not in my lap. So, but Nina, we adopted from another home that couldn't take care of her anymore, and so just love her now. So I don't know what we're gonna do. We're just gonna love her to pieces, I guess. But Nina's a good girl. She's a good girl. She's so quiet. And she's a Chihuahua, so a little long-haired Chihuahua. She's just tiny. But I adore my little Nina, the science doggo. Anyway, let's talk about what's been going on with COVID-19. There's a lot of different things. There's so much misinformation, and we're at a point now where science illiteracy is lethal. So science illiteracy is it's going to kill people essentially. And the thing is people are going to kill themselves. So if you're not familiar with Merkaba, you guys don't know Merkaba, let me help you with that. So Dr. Joseph Merkaba, here's this guy here. Here you go. So there you go. So here's Dr. Joseph Merkaba. That's his mug. He's a terrible human. And the reason why I say he's a terrible human is because he's been perpetuating this idea that you should basically, here, I'll just bring this back up. You should basically, oh, sorry, wrong thing. You should basically take hydrogen peroxide and sniff it, and huff it. Like take diluted hydrogen peroxide and nebulize it, heat it up, and inhale it into your lungs. Don't do that. Coincidentally, he also blocked me. He blocked me on Twitter. He has a massive following. And so I think he's probably gone through, I don't know, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm really curious. Let me know if he's blocked you, because that means he's going down my list. He's going down my list of people who are reporting him. He's had his tweets removed for inciting people to self-harm. So at least Twitter's being on top of that. So Dr. Joseph Mercola, he's not a very, very nice person at all. Do you want to know what, let's actually talk about this. Let's talk about what, inhaling hydrogen peroxide gas will actually do to you. If you drink it, it's pretty bad and you can get sick. It can reach toxic levels. You can suffer burns, okay? You can suffer burns. It'll burn your tissue. It's a very strong oxidizer. That's stronger than that of bleach. Now, oxidizers, if you're not familiar with a bit of chemistry, this is what an oxidizer is. It's essentially an oxidizing agent. And so, it's an oxidizing agent, so H2O2. Used to be, we would talk about redox reactions, to where it was the passage of an oxygen to another molecule. So an oxidizing agent essentially removes oxygen from itself and passes it to something else. And so since you have that extra oxygen on there, it can also, let me just pull this up. I'm going to pull this up for you so you guys can see what I'm talking about. H2O2 oxidizing agent. I'm just going to pull this up so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about here. It's a powerful oxidizer. So here. So I've pulled this up. If you want to know what this does to you, normally it's pretty safe. Okay, I can't blow this up anymore. Why can't I blow up your... It doesn't let me. Anyway. All right. So, hydrogen peroxide, okay. It is safe. It is safe. However, it is still a strong oxidizer. This is what you can use for standalone applications. Controls odor. It oxidizes hydrogen sulfide, amines, aldehydes. So any kind of organic, any kind of organic material. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with. So, oh, wait a second. I've got the wrong thing here. Well, all right. Any kind, can you tell I use OBS for other things. So any kind of organic material, essentially. So organic oxidation. So it hydrolyzes formaldehyde, carbon disulfide, carbohydrates, organophosphorus and nitrogen compounds, and various water-soluble polymers. And with catalysts, it destroys phenols. So there's a lot of different organic materials, organic compounds that make you up. And so it can kind of bust up those molecules pretty well. So if you breathe this into your lungs, you're going to burn your tissues, the lining tissues. You can also burn your lung tissue. This isn't going to stop any of that from happening. It's not going to stop a COVID-19 infection. Now, if you happen to have it and then you suck that in, it might kill some of those viruses, but then you've just opened up a lot of your other tissues to be infected. Don't do this. Don't huff or sniff or inhale hydrogen peroxide. So what happens? Let's do hydrogen peroxide poisoning. I think NIH had one. Alrighty. Thank you. Hydrogen peroxide poisoning. It can cause significant oral burns. If you drink it, severe abdominal pain. Anything greater than 10%. Now, most of the time, the store-bought hydrogen peroxide isn't going to cause you too much damage, but knowing how people are super proactive in doing things to hurt themselves, they'll be doing this a lot, and repeated exposure to hydrogen peroxide in that way of inhaling it and it tearing up your mucosal membranes in your lung tissue is a very, very, very bad idea. Oh, Joseph Merkle, American Loons. Thank you for the link. Gonna go for it. Oh, gosh. I've had H2O2 turn to foam in my mouth. I can only imagine what it would be like in the lungs, right? Inhaled. Let me see. Let me find. There was a better article than this. So Joseph Merkle finally blocked me on Twitter. So I guess. Oh, here we go. This is the one I was looking for. Okay. So this is what I was looking for, if it'll ever load. So on NCI, all right, hydrogen peroxide poisoning. You can kind of check this out here. Oh, this is what I was just looking at before. There's a better, I can't seem to find it now. Anyway, so essentially, you're going to burn your lung tissue. Don't do that. Dr. Merkle is a quack. He's not okay. He's not nice. And so, guys, just to let me know if you follow me on Twitter and he's blocked you. I'm really curious if he's going down my Twitter followers. I've had people do that. People will actually go down my Twitter followers and start blocking them because they're like, well, I don't want this person reporting me for being a horrible human. Yeah, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be like called out for their garbage, but they do it, you know. All right. If a little is good, more is better. Exactly, Tony Designs. Exactly. That's the problem we run into with people. They're super gung-ho. Let me crank up my hydrogen peroxide intake to really kill those viruses. Let me just start squirting it down my nose. You know, people are going to go from sniffing it to probably actually squirting it up their nostrils, like you do with like a saline wash in order to clean out your sinuses. That's not the same, but I suspect people would probably do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Is extremely dangerous and it's not okay. Yes, 2% is the most for external application. Even that will cause skin irritation. Exactly, Nether. You don't want to do that. You're going to irritate your lungs. You're going to irritate your nasal passages. All you're going to do is open yourself up to have a good solid infection, not just for COVID-19, but other things. Other things. Don't do that. Can't get the virus if you're dead. That's right. You know what else? Do you know what else kills COVID-19? Battery acid. Battery acid, hydrochloric. Let's get some 12 molar hydrochloric acid. You start pouring that on stuff. Can't even huff that either, guys. If you okay, coming from a chemist here. If you have a bottle of 12 molar hydrochloric acid, you have to put that under a hood. You know why? Because gases come out. And you can have acid gas. You can have acid gas enter into your lungs. And then you're going to be like really close to dying. So acid, battery acid, that kills COVID-19. Don't go huffing it. Don't go huffing 12 molar hydrochloric acid either. And you know what else kills it? Sodium hydroxide, a super strong base. Get you some 6 molar, that'll take it right out. Might eat through some other things, but hey, you killed the virus. You know, it's just like, oh my goodness. Hello, Taco. How are you? Hey, bigzebra.com. What's going on? A gun will kill the virus. Well, yeah. Setting it on fire. Setting it on fire. That should do it too. Yeah. I got a sinus infection. I got sinus damage from working with 37% hydrochloric acid under a defective vent. See, Nether? See? People don't listen. Oh, God. I had acid gas once ruin some perfectly good underwear. Oh, my goodness. Ah, gosh. Yes, Peter. I accidentally streamed on RJ's channel. So if you guys don't know, here, I'm going to plug his book really quickly. Him and Jackson Wheat. I produce Evolution Hour. I produce Evolution Hour for their channel on Wednesday nights at 9 Central. There's their book, The Rocks Were There. That's a pretty hefty book, guys. And RJ's like, let me know when you read it. And I'm like, you know, that's what? Oh, that's just a Saturday, right? He has a phenomenal reference section. It's like 100 some odd pages. So most of this book is just the references, guys. So I'm doing a little plug for RJ and Jackson's book. There's the references right there, guys. Right there. That's just references. And it's actually it's more than 200 pages. 225 pages long. Just the references. So yay. Hey Darren. So yeah, on Wednesdays I stream RJ and Jackson's Evolution Hour. So I accidentally started streaming there this morning, Peter. So I'll have to message him, delete that video. It's like 30 seconds maybe. Oh goodness. Hello, Michael Roble. All right, so I'm catching up on the chat. And that happened more than 8 years ago, Nether. Yeah, that was a hard lesson, wasn't it? That was a heck of a lesson to learn about hydrochloric acid gas. The body's immune system is the best thing to fight. Why take any outside measures until it becomes chronic? Well, if we had a vaccine, I would prefer a vaccine rather than actually getting the disease. Usually a vaccine can initiate a stronger immune response than the virus alone. In some viruses, not all viruses. HPV is an example of that. The vaccine elicits a stronger immune response than the virus itself. And so, you know, go get vaccinated. But yeah, I get you, Golden Coin. If I remember correctly, H2O2 was the fuel used in the first jetpack built by Bell Aerospace back in the 60s. It's still part of rocket fuel. But there you go. Oh, goodness. Dr. Merkula has earned himself a place at quackwatch.org. There you go. Yeah, he blocked me. I'm actually kind of proud of that. I guess I shouldn't be, but because now I can't, like, read his nonsense as much. Y'all have to send it to me so I can debunk it. Darren Ranston says, chlorine trifluoride will get rid of the virus and 3 feet of concrete below the virus. There you go. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, your immune system can't prevent COVID-19. But yeah, so that's true. That's true, Nether. Because it never encountered serological related virus, so we need to prevent infection until a vaccine can prime us. That's true. And also, there's some things that are coming out. Let's talk a bit about that. Hey, Suge, how you doing? How you doing? Suge recently bought a mug, and those proceeds, Suge, just to let you know, since that was part of the Blocked By series, the mug that she bought, those proceeds benefit the Arizona Natural History Museum. So I will be sending a donation over there with your name on it to Natural History Museum in Arizona. So there you go. All right. As Dave Spirals asks, has any vaccine ever cured a virus ever? Okay. Now, there's immunotherapies, Okay, there's immunotherapies. For instance, we see that with cancer. And Doc Savage, who's been on my channel before, we used to run a show together, Oral Audacity. He worked in immunotherapies, and he also worked in vaccine development. Now, immunotherapy is where you rewire your immune system, reprogram it to attack your cancer. Now, vaccines don't cure a virus. They prevent you from contracting the virus. Therefore, you don't, whenever, if you become in contact with it, in contact with the virus, you already have antibodies to take care of the infection. So it's a preemptive measure to prevent you from getting the disease. That's what vaccines do. Alrighty, so catching up. You love my Captain Marvel cup. Well, thank you. Yeah, I like it. It's Captain Marvel. She's awesome. Let's see. Awesome. There you go. So now I've caught up on the chat. I'll talk about some quacks some more here in a minute, because Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil are saying really stupid things right now. So, what's new, right? What's new? Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. By the way, guys, do you know how Dr. Phil deals with people who criticize him on the internet? If you didn't know, and he has it in his bio, if you go and look, it says, let me pull this up. Let's just pull this up now. Dr. Phil Twitter. Let's do that. Dr. Phil Twitter. Here we go. If you didn't know this already, let me just show you this, Jim. So, guys, look at this. Your comments, and he says, your comments, photo, handle may be used by Dr. Phil and Petsky Productions, including being published on the web or on television. So, if you criticize Dr. Phil, he might actually take your criticism and put it on the TV. I imagine this is how he handles criticism. So if he goes through, takes one of your tweets out of context, and then posts it and blasts you on his television, that certainly isn't going to cause any kind of, harassment online, is it? So I imagine with Dr. Phil, this is probably his way of handling and possibly preventing himself from getting any kind of online criticism, because he can just take whatever you say and use his platform for it. And that's what he says. So that's what he says in his bio. He's like, if you say stuff to me, I might actually put you on my TV show, and then you'll have to deal with all of the people who watch my show to come and say stuff to you. I feel like he trolls you. He's going to troll you on his TV show, which I find particularly hilarious. I'm like, okay, Dr. Phil, you're gonna you probably incite people to troll you. Don't forget Dr. Drew. Yeah, no kidding. Oh God, yes, vaccines have eradicated smallpox. I think that's mostly in the U.S. I think there's, well, no. Yes, it's polio I was thinking of. You're right, Nether. All right. You should ask Donna T to chat with you, Scientist Mel. She's a frontline nurse in this pandemic. That would be great. I'll have to check it out. I like Dr. Mike. I like Dr. Mike, though. He's great. Cool, Suge. Catch me outside. How about that, Dr. Phil? Or if you're in chemistry, catch me in the valence. How about that? Valence shell of electrons. They're on the outside. That was an extremely nerdy joke, and it was really bad. I'm not even sorry. Don't buy Dr. Phil's hair regeneration oil. Oh, he's actually, he lost his license to practice. So he still retains a doctor because of his education, but he lost the license to practice for ethical violations and, possibly being, kind of creepy with patients. There's allegations of some kind of creepiness going on, unwanted attention. So I just find something to note. That's all. Whether or not it has evidence to substantiate it. I'm not certain, but, you know, yeah. Anywho, let's talk about a few things going on with COVID-19. All right. I've already talked about don't huff hydrogen peroxide. It's a bad idea. That's terrible. So let's talk about some science, and then we'll go back to discussing freaking quacks that make me nuts. They make me nuts because they got doctor in front of their name, and then people will listen to them. Oh, they're a doctor. Let me go and huff some hydrogen peroxide. Oh my God. That makes me nuts, guys. People like that. That's all. That's all. All right. Where was I looking at it? Okay. This particular article. Okay. So, guys, there's new evidence that's coming out that's getting a little bit scary. It's not just lungs that COVID-19 could affect. It may damage the heart, brain, and kidneys. So there's new information that's coming out about what COVID-19 is doing as we see, as we can observe what's going on in ICUs and hospitals all over the place. So here, and this is from the advisory.com daily briefing. And so Washington Post has reported about this. So in addition, and they report, in addition to the widely reported lung injuries associated with COVID-19, clinicians around the world are reporting that the disease also could be causing cardiac injuries in patients that sometimes lead to cardiac arrest. And so healthcare workers in China and New York have reported seeing myocarditis. That's basically inflammation of heart muscle and irregular heart rhythms, even in patients with no pre-existing heart conditions. At first, patients seem to be doing well as far as the respiratory status goes. This is said from Mitchell Elkind at Columbia University. But the patients suddenly develop a cardiac issue that seems out of proportion to their respiratory issues. And so another study, but Elkind did note that about 40% of seriously ill COVID-19 patients in China experienced arrhythmias, so unusual heart rate and heart beating, and 20% experienced actual heart injury. So there's some concern that some of it may be due to direct influence of the virus. So they're thinking there might be a connection there, but of course we still need more information. There is a separate study on patients in China, about 416, and they found that 19% showed signs of heart damage, and those patients were more likely to die. Now, this is what they report. According to the study, 51% of patients with heart damage compared with the 4.5% of patients who showed no signs of cardiac injury. So we need to continue to self-isolate. This is just heart stuff. Now they're seeing stuff about nervous tissue damage, brain injuries, seizures, hallucinations. There's a study that was published last week in JAMA Neurology. One third of 214 hospitalized COVID-19 patients in Wuhan had neurological symptoms. Kidney damage increasingly common in COVID-19 patients. Another study associated with that found that 9 of 26 people who died of COVID-19 had acute kidney injuries, and 7 had units of the new coronavirus in their kidneys. And that came from Yale School of Medicine. Blood clots found in majority of patients who died of COVID-19. That's a particular Chinese study. So they're finding that it might be more systemic than what we initially thought. These cytokine storms that are going through, where you can consistently have like inflammation in the lungs, where your white blood cells are going in and trying to fight off the infection, is causing more issues with those respiratory concerns, and then it starts to get clogged with all of the activity that's going on there. regardless, and they say regardless the organ damage is threatening patients' lives, it's not necessarily the virus killing people. It's the organ failure that happens as a result of the viral infection. And this is from Christopher Barrett, who's a senior surgical resident at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. So we're learning more about this virus. And then we have the Jaws mayor, known as Governor DeSantis, who opened the beaches this weekend. So that's the problem. That's the problem with people going, oh, well, we're flattening the curve now. Let's open back up again. And we're like, oh, wait, kidney damage, heart damage, neurological issues, not only lung issues, the organ damage is what's killing people, it seems to be, not necessarily the infection itself. The blood clotting might be related to the cytokine overreaction produced in response to the virus. That's true, Nether. That could be true. Sash says Merkla has now gone full tinfoil hat on Twitter. He tweeted that his buddy tells him the COVID-19 pandemic is being used to shift global wealth. Yeah, I don't know how that's going. I don't even understand that. Okay, how do they distinguish between the neuro problems being specifically from COVID and more generally from fever? That's a good question. I think it's possibly just observational right now. I don't know. I would have to look at, let's see. Further, while health experts were originally were telling patients to avoid seeking care at hospitalists that had a common COVID-19 symptoms such as fever, cough, or troubling breathing, neurologists are hoping the new data will add neurological symptoms such as confusion, numbness, or trouble speaking to that list. Okay, I don't have here. Let's see if we can open up. Let's look at that study. Okay. All right. It looks like, oh guys, it's not behind a paywall. We can look at it. Let's look at this study now. Okay. That's really big. And it's got, all right. So here's the study associated with neurological manifestations of hospitalized patients with coronavirus 2019 in Wuhan, China. In notable proportion of patients with coronavirus disease 2019. Several studies have described typical clinical manifestations, including fever, cough, diarrhea, fatigue. However, to our knowledge, it has not been reported that patients with COVID-19 had any neurological manifestations. All right, so the percentages. All right, results of 214 patients, around 52.7. Okay, so they had men, age, 87 men with COVID-19, 126 patients had non-severe infection, and 88 patients had severe infection according to their respiratory status. Overall, 78 patients, so 36.4% had neurological manifestations compared with patients with non-severe infection. Patients with severe infection were older, had more underlying disorders, especially hypertension, and showed fewer typical symptoms of COVID-19, such as fever and cough. Patients with more severe infection had neurological manifestations, such as acute cerebrovascular disease, impaired consciousness, and skeletal muscle injuries. So that's not something that you would necessarily see with just a standard fever, I would think. Okay, so when seeing patients with neurological manifestations, clinicians should suspect severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 infection as a different diagnosis to avoid delayed diagnosis or misdiagnosis and lose the chance to treat and prevent further transmission. So now they're recommending if people have this, in addition to the neurological manifestations, go ahead and see them because they probably have it. So they used the PCR tests, which is what was going on at the time. All right, radiological assessments included chest and head CT scans and all laboratory testing, complete blood cell count, blood chemical analysis, coagulation testing, all the stuff you would do, C-reactive protein. All right, so that was the study design, data collection. You know, there may be some effect of a fever on that type of neurological manifestation. But if it's profound, and that's a pretty high percentage for people. I can't imagine a lot of individuals suffer that type of thing. But, I would need to dig into this a bit more. All right, apart from cerebrovascular disease and impaired consciousness, most neurological manifestations occurred early in the illness. Median time, 1 to 2 days. Of 6 patients with acute cerebral vascular disease, 2 arrived at the emergency department owing to sudden onset of hemiplegia, but without any typical symptoms. So they were having neurological things, but didn't have the typical symptoms, like fever, cough, anorexia, and diarrhea. So I guess there you go. Some of that, it looks like some of these patients who had the neurological disorders who tested positive for COVID-19 had no other outlying typical symptoms associated with COVID-19, the fever, cough, diarrhea, anorexia, that sort of thing, which that makes it interesting. So that's a good question, Tony. There's no known previous heart condition. It might be that the virus will vastly worsen any even minor heart tissue a patient might have without even knowing. That's a fair statement as well. That's a fair statement as well. Oh my goodness, you guys are funny. Some of you making jokes. Oh goodness. All right. Let's see. Yeah, that's true, Nether. Yeah, pretty much all one can rely on those things until we get really in depth molecular analysis. Yeah. A good doctor is as rare as hen's teeth. I don't know about that. Wealth shifting with Merkula. He's just, oh my gosh. I touched my face. I need a quarter jar. Every time I touch my face, I have to put like a quarter or a nickel in a jar. All right, so hello, Grey Heart Labs. How are you doing? Okay, so guys, we need to stay home. We need to stay home. Don't listen to the Jaws mayor if you live in Florida. Governor DeSantis does not seem interested in the preservation of life, just the preservation of money. I'll be oh, we just got a super chat. Learning with Siege, $10. Thank you so much. We should get our little, is the thing going to pop? I don't know if my thing's going to pop up. Normally a thing pops up and goes, woohoo, and does a thing. So thank you so much for that super chat, Learning with Sue. There it is. Yay. Alan Turing and Stephen Hawking duking it out. Thank you so much for that super chat. All right, Learning with Suge. Awesome person. Loves the science. All right, let's talk a bit more. How close are we? Well, how close are we? When can a vaccine be ready? Usually it's about 12 to 18 months to develop, to test, pretty much and approved for use. I mean, because you have to see if there's any, different effects. You got to show that it's effective. You have to show that antibodies are being produced, and you got to show that it's effective against consecutive infections. But usually it takes a couple of years to earn approval. So Dr. Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and I found this from Live Science, so let's pull that up. Maybe can I blow this up? Why isn't it letting me blow this up? I can't blow up anything anymore. So experts told Live Science recently said that it could take 12 to 18 months to develop it. Also, you have to consider how long it takes to just make a vaccine. The process of making a lot of vaccines takes a lot of time. This timeline would be unrealistic for any other vaccine. It takes like several years. So 60 different candidate vaccines are in development right now. and essentially, I don't know what's going on with this. We'll just wait. Vaccines are in development worldwide. And that comes from a report from the World Health Organization. Some vaccines are trying to provoke an immune response in vaccinated people by introducing that weakened version of COVID-19. But there is a COVID-19 vaccine that's entered clinical trials in the U.S. It uses a genetic molecule called messenger RNA. That's your little bit of RNA that your ribosomes can read as its base. So they make this mRNA in a lab rather than injecting SARS or COVID-2, also known as COVID-19, into patients. They introduce the messenger RNA. It should promote human cells to build proteins found on the virus's surface and then trigger this protective immune response against the virus. So that's one way. So if you're not familiar with a bit of your cellular biology, messenger RNA is what your ribosomes read in order to make proteins. And so what they're doing, rather than injecting a type of virus into the person, they're injecting the things to make just the outside receptors that you find on the virus in order to initiate that response. Now, how would that work exactly? Well, what that is, like people who have allergic reactions to pollen or any other kind of thing, if there's a protein signature, any kind of protein that enters your body, if you have a highly sensitive immune system, you could develop an immune response to it. That's essentially how allergies work. So what this particular vaccine is trying to do is trying to get your cells to make the protein that you would see on the virus without actually putting the virus into you. And so your cells would then make the protein, and then your antibodies would be like, hey, wait, this isn't one of ours. What's this random protein here? And then they're hoping to get an immune response from it. So maybe that will go. I don't know. That might be pretty cool. I need to go back and do another episode on the newer versions of vaccines and how those work and how those are made. That might be cool. Okay. And so different challenges. You have to make certain it's safe. You got to make certain it doesn't have any other any strong side effects or harmful side effects. It can take a while. Usually once they get, and I know that they're able to generate antibodies in mice right now associated with certain clinical trials of the vaccine. And once they're able to do that, then that's a good step moving towards human trials. So it still takes a while. It's just a lot of time is needed in order to make certain that it generates antibodies. However you're doing that, whether it's the RNA version or a weakened version of the virus, is that weakened version of the virus really weak? You got to worry about that. Any additional side effects, any harmful side effects? Does it generate the antibodies? I mean, is it a strong enough immune response? How many times will people have to be inoculated or to go and get the vaccine? Is it going to be one time? Is it going to be 2 times? Is it going to be 3 times? How many shots do they have to get in order to keep that strong immune response? So all of these different things kind of play a role. So usually it takes years, but we're looking at 12 to 18 months. Now, a virus would snuff the spread of COVID-19, but these infections typically take hold in what we call mucosal tissues, that kind of mucosal tissues, that your snot making tissues, the stuff that makes the snot, essentially, your mucus. You would need to have immunity at the site of the infection in the nose and the upper respiratory tract. So these hot spots, these areas here are easily infected. So being able to have an immune response associated with that would have to be pretty, just as effective as like a type of flu type of flu vaccine, because that's usually how the flu is transmitted. So it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, but at least people are moving in the right direction. Let me catch up on the chat. I'm sorry, Gray Heart Labs. I'm sorry you're in the Florida man puts his mask on backwards. Did y'all see that? Governor DeSantis does not know how to put on a mask. He put one of the things over his head, and then there was one hanging down. Hello, One Clown Shoe. How are you? So nobody's surprised the Jaws mayor doesn't know how to put on a mask, right? Have y'all seen that video? That's a pretty interesting video. Let me pull up my Twitter. Pretty certain I got this. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Let's just blow this little baby up. So check this out. So here is, guys, here is a person in charge of a state who opened all the beaches today, and that's how he put on the mask, right there. So on efforts, it's been great. None of us are. I mean, like, for real. Look at that. I mean, it just. And this dude in the back gives him the side eye for a second. I caught that like earlier this morning. I can't, guys. This man is in charge of his state. Like, this man is in charge of his state, and he couldn't figure out that you have two ears. It's really hard to be me sometimes when you see that, and I just, okay. Anyway, Florida man puts his mask on backwards and runs a state. Oh gosh. Does he have no advisors at all to just say, hey, honey, this is one of those your pants are on inside out and you smell like cheese moments. It's just like, does he have no one? I'm certainly not surprised the Jaws mayor put his mask on backwards. He's not worried at all about stuff. All right, so, okay. Anywho, let's talk a little bit about some things that popped up about my other two doctors that I love to rip apart, other than Merkala. Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil said something really, really, really ridiculous. So let's just, of course it's on Fox News. So let's have a look here at Dr. Phil, and just break this down for a minute. It's about 38 seconds long, so we can withstand that.
250 people a year die from poverty, and the poverty line is getting such that more and more.
You guys also notice that the lighting here is, never mind. He's purple, and okay, never mind. Hello, Tamara, and hey, Zal.
More people are going to fall below that because the economy is crashing around us. And they're doing that because people are dying from the coronavirus. I get that. But look, the fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools, but we don't shut the country down for that.
Yes, he said all that. Oh, God. Hey, Taco. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so Dr. Phil, who, okay. Let's just address all that really quickly. We don't close the country. We don't close the country for, like, for car accidents and cigarette smoking and swimming pool drownings. First of all, he got his numbers wrong on swimming pool drowning. None of this is contagious. None of this is right. None of this is contagious. Also, okay, car accidents in the U.S. If you get in enough of those, they take your license away and you could possibly go to jail. There's something called vehicular manslaughter. So, that's the thing, Dr. Phil. I can't stand the fear mongering either. Right. Only the U.S. are car accidents and swimming pools contagious. Oh my gosh. Also, in certain states, if you have a swimming pool and you don't have a fence around it and a neighborhood kid drowns in your pool, could be brought up on charges for negligence and you could be sued by the family. So that's a good thing there. It's also having a swimming pool is a choice. Smoking and non-smoking. We don't have smoking and non-smoking sections in restaurants and pubs and theaters and, stuff like that anymore, because guess what? The smoke doesn't stay in the smoking section. So a lot of places say you cannot smoke in here. You have to smoke outside, where you're less likely to breathe in that cigarette smoke if you choose not to smoke. So it's not the same, Dr. Phil. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. He's a puppet. He does look purple. We could put the lines on there and he'd look like a Star Wars hologram, wouldn't he? He's just like a lackey for Palpatine that doesn't quite get it right. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever. So yeah, I think this, let's listen a bit more.
But yet we're doing it for this, and the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed.
The fallout from this pandemic, because people, I don't know, current administration fired all the people that could prevent this, is going to last for about 5 years, according to some of my immunology friends who are experts. This is going to be forever changing people. And so you're willing to let people die. Oh my gosh. Okay.
And 250 people a year.
Okay. So yeah, I'm done with him. Anywho, so Dr. Phil, not only did he do that, he came out later and he's like, you know what, guys? Might have been a little bit wrong. Let's have a look at that. So he's already retracted his statements. I probably used bad examples in comments about the coronavirus fallout. You think, Dr. Phil? Maybe. Just a little bit. And he retweeted this. He actually retweeted this. Probably used bad examples. Could it be because this is what I got to say about that. This is what I got to say about this, Dr. Phil. You said exactly what you needed to say on the platform that you were at. Just like Dr. Oz, you got your attention that you wanted. They made you relevant because you can't make your little shows right now because of the lockdown. Therefore, you aren't getting your money. Maybe get a YouTube channel. And start streaming from there and see if people will watch your show or not. But to be quite honest with you, you're a dangerous person. You have a large audience and you're telling people that they need to just go on and walk out. You go and walk out. Go to Florida. The beaches are open. Go swimming, Dr. Phil. You're pushing 60 now? You're at the high risk age. Why don't you take one for the team? And go ahead and experiment and see what happens? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put into place what you just told everybody else they need to do? Are you willing to put that in place? That's what makes me nuts. None of these guys who are pushing this type of rhetoric would at all be willing. It's kind of like you guys, okay, so it's like the Avengers. The whole thing between Tony Stark and Captain America is like, are you the guy who would fall on the grenade to save the team? I don't think that's Dr. Phil. Ended up it was Tony Stark. He's the guy to fall on the grenade. Just y'all. I have not watched Endgame more than one time because I can't cope with it. Hey, Heretic, how are you? Yep. Oh my gosh. So it just, Dr. Phil is not the guy who would fall on the grenade. None of these people who are like, we gotta open up America. And you're just like, no, we don't. We don't. All of these billionaires have all this money. They could feed these people. These billionaires who have all this money just sitting around. This is where we go. Okay. The economy, they're like, these people who are making all this money, they're heavily reliant on people to work for them. That's what this is. And it makes me nuts because they're willing to sacrifice people's lives and say, hey, this ain't so bad. Which brings me to Dr. Oz. Every reservation, all their money comes from tobacco, and they're all shut down in Canada. Oh, goodness. Fallout 2 to 5%. Dying isn't so bad, 2 to 5% of, I think it's like several million people in the U.S. There's like 135 million people in the U.S. We'll do the math here in a second. Okay. I just want to slap these folks with a 10-foot stick. There you go, Random Explorer. There you go. He is an Oprah puppet. I've noticed Oprah's strikingly quiet about the stuff that Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz are saying. Oprah, what you got to say about this? She wanted to run for president once. She was pushing this. I'm loving your passion. Oh, gosh. Oprah. Oh, gosh. Oprah, where are you at? Where are you at? Thank you, Heretic. I'm glad you love my passion. He's the guy buying 1,000 rolls of toilet. He's the one that's buying stock in toilet paper. That's what he's doing. Let's be honest tomorrow. Oh, God. 300 million plus in the USA. All right, so let's do the math here. Let me look up the population. And I got my TI-80 is A4, TI-84. Population of the US. Let's figure out how much 2 to 3% is of the population of the US. Let's sort that out, Dr. Phil. Maybe you fall in that category. Okay, 328.2 million. Let's see. So this is where we're at. 328.2 million. All right, so I'm going to do the math right here on my fancy calculator that I've had forever. 328.2 times, let's say we'll say 2.5. We'll say 2.5% times 0.025. So that's 8.205 million. 8.205 million people are going to die. Okay, 8.205 million people. Now, people are like, but the flu. Okay, the flu costs a lot of lives, but it's spread out over a year, and we have a vaccine for that. Can you imagine if we didn't have a vaccine for the flu? Even though it changes, even though there's different strains, they keep up with that. And there are multiple strains, but by getting a flu shot, you don't get that one strain. You might get another strain, but you reduce your risk. And by everybody getting a flu shot, they reduce their risk. So, this is what the world is like without one vaccine. Well, people die from the flu every year, but it's spread out over a year, not in 2 months, okay? It's spread out over a year to where people, all the people who get the flu and go to the hospital, the ones who don't die, survive, okay? Because the hospital is not overloaded. This is what's making me nuts. It's like people are dying right now because they don't have a ventilator. They're finding healthcare workers dead in their homes. All of this is going on right now. And people are like, hey, let's open up the beaches, like the Jaws mayor of Florida. I mean, it's just, Governor DeSantis, shame on you. Your people are going to die, and makes me nuts. And only half the people take the vaccine. Well, that's probably true. CJGT77, how are you doing? Oh, goodness. So there you go. So anyway, so let's take those numbers. Now, recently, Dr. Oz came out and he was like, we should open up the schools and let the kids go there because, and let's just hear what he has to say. So this comes from Now This. Here's Now This. So Dr. Oz recently was under fire for saying stuff about this because and then he felt sorry later. We'll watch that too. But notice, he's on Fox News, just like Dr. Phil. They say exactly what the people want to hear on this particular platform. And then they come back and go like, well, maybe I said the wrong thing. No, you didn't. You knew exactly what you're doing. Dr. Oz, if you're smart enough to actually have words come out of your mouth where it sounds like you want 2 to 3% of children to die, you're pretty smart enough to be able to explain yourself a bit better. I mean, you do have a TV show. You know what you're doing. Let's not pretend. So here we go. Let's let kids go back to school.
We need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble. I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity.
Schools are an appetizing opportunity. Okay.
I just saw a nice piece in The Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality.
Okay. He misrepresented the Lancet article right here. But he said 2 to 3% in terms of mortality. So he's saying it will only cost the lives of 2 to 3% of people if we open the schools up. Now, he might not have meant to say that, but I doubt it. I doubt it. If you read the Lancet article, that is not what this says. Okay?
And, that's any life is a life lost, but to get every child back into a school where there's
any life is a life lost. So he knew exactly what he was saying here. So people are like, oh, well, and there's some people defending him. Now, given the Lancet article does not say that. It doesn't say that. But he's sitting here saying only 2 to 3%, any life is a life lost, total mortality rate. He's advocating for the death of people. So whether or not he misrepresented the paper, that in itself is pretty terrible. And then secondly, he's advocating for the death of people. And then he comes out and he apologizes later. So
safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk in the backside. It might be a trade-off some folks would consider.
So he thinks this is a good trade-off. It's okay because the kids need to eat and the kids need to go. Just so you know, a lot coming from a former school teacher, okay? The districts are still taking care of kids. They are out here. You can still go and get a meal from the school. You can still get your meals from the school. You just have somebody drive you there and then they hand it to you. You can still get your meal at school. Now, the idea is the transportation is an issue, but there's still an effort being made to feed these kids. So props to those school districts who are doing that. He's misrepresenting everything here. And this is a problem that I have with Dr. Oz. He knows exactly what he's saying. So let's not pretend that he just didn't advocate for the death of, what was it? 8.205 million people. So let's not pretend that he just didn't advocate for the death of all those people and saying that that's a reasonable trade-off in order to get these kids back in school. That's not what the Lancet paper says, all right? That's not what the Lancet paper says at all. I'll show you what it says. So, yeah, go here. Okay, that's all. I don't even want to look at him anymore. He makes me so mad. Let's look at the Lancet paper, okay? And then we're gonna pull up how he's like, oh, maybe I'm sorry, and I said some dumb things. Yes, you did. Oh, let me catch up on the chat for a second, and then we'll. If no one ever had the flu, it would be potentially as dangerous. Corona, true. The flu vaccine efficacy varies a lot. Well, that's mostly to do with which strain that you get, Taco. But I understand what you're saying. Yep. Random Explorer says, I just stay away from anyone that seems sick. I don't want the common cold. Definitely do not want COVID-19. Thankful I have worked from home for many years and live alone. Well, there are people who don't actively have any kind of symptoms who are carrying the virus. Yes, letting children attend school will result in massive spike in infection rates. They can still carry it. And then you have the workers at the school. What about the faculty members? What about the people who are in charge of feeding them? What about the after school care individuals? What about the volunteers? Sometimes retired people will volunteer at a school. And try to help with the lunchroom. You know what I mean? You still have different people who are at risk. So, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Catching up. I know. Hey, Java Unfiltered. 1 million beds in the USA, 5 million people get this virus, need hospital, but then die, suggesting 25 million people need a bed. How many people with other hospital requirements can't get a bed and die too? Exactly, heretic. This is just, we overload the hospital. What about the people who get in a car wreck? Or the people who suffer an injury at work, or the people who have other, diseases that show up? What about these individuals? Who's gonna determine who gets a bed or not? So, yeah, I'm tired. Margaret on Periscope says, I'm tired of the word apology. It just means don't hold me accountable. I know. So, goodness. It just makes me nuts. In my area, school custodians are working, delivering meals to students. Thank you, Mr. Shadow Kitty. You give them a high five from me when you talk to them next and say, I appreciate that. So that's good. A lot of these are non-issues. All right, so I've caught up on the chat. I know Mistaken Ricky. Wow, just wow. I know. And tomorrow, they knew months before this was created. Watched a journalist, and this is a lock and key infection that's like AIDS, and it'll keep coming back. Maybe. We don't yet know about 100% what's going on with COVID-19. Is it going to act like the flu, where, it changes? It's an RNA virus. I don't know if it permanently changes your cells to where, it hides in situ, as they say, and then comes back. So let's look at what the Lancet article actually said. All right, so this is what the Lancet article that Dr. Oz was talking about. Let's talk about this and what it actually says. Okay, first of all, let's read the whole thing, okay? Because people do what's called cherry picking, and Dr. Oz is one of those. Don't cherry pick. Let's read the whole thing together. Oh, and I can't blow it up. So in summary, this is a school closure and management practices during coronavirus outbreaks, including COVID-19, a rapid systematic review. So here's the summary. And this is where he's pulling his numbers from. I doubt he even read the entire paper, if I'm honest. He just went cherry picking and said, oh, I found a thing that I can misrepresent on Fox News on purpose, and they're going to give me more viewers. Maybe they'll send me some money. I don't know. All right. So it says, in response to the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic, 107 countries had implemented national school closures by March 18th, 2020. It is unknown. So we're going to start this. It is unknown whether school measures are effective in coronavirus outbreaks. It's unknown, Dr. Oz. We don't know. So stop lying. All right. And this is due to severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, Middle East respiratory syndrome, or COVID-19. Now, we undertook a systematic review by searching 3 electronic databases to identify what is known about the effectiveness of school closures and other school social distancing practices during coronavirus updates. So that's what they're doing. That's what they did. And this was published April 6th, about 12 days ago. All right. We included 16 of 616 identified articles. So this is based on 16 articles. 16 articles. That's a small amount. 16 articles. So we don't know. Okay? 16. Out of 616 articles, they decided to go with 16. Okay? Small sample size. Red flag number 1. All right, school closures were deployed rapidly across mainland China and Hong Kong for COVID-19. However, there are no data on the relative contribution of school closures to transmission control. No data. No data, okay? We don't know anything. Okay. Data from the SARS outbreak in mainland China, Hong Kong, and Singapore suggests that school closures did not contribute to the control of the epidemic. But this is also based on 16 papers. Now, they've done modeling studies of SARS-produced conflicting results. Okay. So there are studies that conflict with that. Recent modeling studies of COVID-19, now this is where Dr. Oz got his thing. Recent modeling studies of COVID-19 predict that school closures would only prevent 2 to 4% of deaths. Okay? That's what the article says. It would only prevent 2 to 4% of deaths, much less than social distancing interventions. Here's my question. Do you expect children to socially distance if they're in school? Are they going to stay 6 feet apart? High schoolers? No. Middle schoolers? Not when you pack them all in a classroom like that. But still, recent modeling studies. So there's conflicting reports. Nobody knows. So what do scientists say? Err on the safe side just in case, because we don't want people to die. Okay? So, let's see. Policymakers need to be aware of the equivocal evidence when considering school closures for COVID-19, and that combinations of social distancing measures should be considered. So, they need to, okay, if you're going to open the schools up, they're saying they need to still socially distance. How are you going to do that if you're a teacher with 35 kids in your room? Been there. How are you going to do that with 35 middle schoolers or high schoolers crammed in a room? I had a classroom where students had to climb on top of each other to get to their desks. It was so small. Can't do social distancing measures with that. Can't do it. Can't do it at all. And then expect the teachers to wipe down all the desks after every single class to ensure that there's no transmission of infection, in addition to doing their jobs. Don't think that's going to happen. All right, so other less disruptive social distancing interventions in schools require further consideration if restrictive social distancing policies are implemented for long periods. That's what it says, Dr. Oz. It doesn't say, but they would rather have the schools closed until they learn more. And that we don't catch up on the chat. Java says school districts in this area are driving meals around to each other's bus stops. That's awesome. That's a great idea, Java. High five to your school district. Let me see. All right. Catching up. They want people to get depressed. That will get more people than CV. COVID. Probably, man. When I was in high school, the custodian would smoke pot with the students. Taco. Oh my goodness. There are new strains of COVID-19 found in Europe, so yes, the virus is mutating. Hopefully its surface antigens won't mutate as fast as the flu. Hopefully not. It is an RNA virus, and recently was talking to Doc Savage. It's not unusual to see it mutate pretty rapidly. That's I hadn't heard about the new strains yet, so I was like reaching out to him saying, what is going on? And he's like, it's an RNA virus. You know what RNA polymerase doesn't have? I'm like, proofreading. He goes, so it's expected. RNA polymerase is going through and making copies of the RNA. It doesn't have proofreading capabilities, so it has a high rate of mutation, and sometimes that can cause just changes in the proteins on the outside. Man, hang in there tomorrow. I hope everything goes okay. Goodness, it's all right. There's no room in most classrooms I've seen for 6 students to socially distance, says Tony Designs. Exactly. How are you going to do that? And then those kids are going to pass it around, and then they touch everything. And then the teachers, what if they have pre-existing conditions, or what if they're a high-risk individual, essentially, people close to retirement? You really want to die from getting this, and there's no, thing. We know, Heretic says, we know C19 mutates quickly. With every country in lockdown will mutate according to the environment of each country. 250 plus new strains immediately. Nightmare, no more traveling. Oh my goodness. We need to maintain, we need to continue to stay locked down. Killing people is bad, okay? Exactly, Taco. Exactly. Goodness gracious. Oh, God. Hey, being mindful, how are you doing? Will most mutations be less contagious or more so have a higher mortality rate or lower? Most of the time when you're dealing with mutations, they don't do anything. We undergo mutation all the time, but sometimes it's just, but we also have proofreading in our DNA. So when our DNA undergoes copying, there's still mutations that happen, but most of the time with those they don't do anything. Now, with RNA, since there's no proofreading mechanism to go back and check and make certain everything's okay, like there is with DNA, you have a higher rate of mutation. Sometimes changing one of those codons doesn't do anything to the protein. That's usually the case. That's usually the case. Most of the time, doesn't do anything, but it mutates enough to where it's an increased rate of actually causing a problem. So the more it enters people, the more it's allowed to replicate, the more it's allowed to make copies of its RNA, the higher the risk you have of it mutating into something worse. It's like pulling a slot machine. If you had unlimited nickels or quarters and you just kept going and somebody just kept giving you quarters, you're eventually going to hit it. And if you do that long enough, you do that and you do it fast enough, if a reset was just a few seconds every single time, after a while you're going to hit the jackpot and you're going to have something that does make a difference. Whether or not it'll be more or less contagious, I don't know. I don't know if it makes it more contagious or not. That's a good question. I'll add that to my I'm actually, guys, on Twitter. I'll add that question to that. I'm making a list of questions, a type of FAQ that the World Health Organization doesn't have answered in their FAQs, and I'm going to send it over to somebody that I know who is an expert in the field, and they'll go through and they'll answer those questions that you have. So if you haven't checked out the World Health Organization frequently asked questions, do so. I'm compiling together a bunch of different questions that I'll put answers to, but the answers will be coming from a person who is an expert in the field, not me. I mean, I'll post them on like my website or something like that, but it will be from an actual expert in the field. So there you go. And have higher mortality rates or lower. I don't know. I'm not certain on that. It could get bad, I would imagine. All right. So, yes, Nether says mutations will likely be neutral, although genome is too short to allow mustasis. However, beneficial and detrimental mutations equally likely. That's true, Nether. Thank you for explaining it that way. Okay. So, killing the host is a bad outcome for the virus too. Yes, it is, but it's still a thing that happens. Look at HIV. That's one of those things. They eventually kill the host. So a lot of those types of viruses, that evolutionary goal is to transmit as much as possible and be, find all the ways that it can transmit from person to person to just stay persistent. That's what some of these viruses do on an evolutionary type of level. All right, so RNA virus strains tend to merge in host. Yes, meaning strains don't diverge as fast. One prominent strain carrying most mutations will quickly arise in any given population. That's true too, Nether. I usually pronounce FAQ as FAQ, says Zal. Yeah, it usually does come down to selection. That's true. That's true. Hello, Hillbilly Jim Scraps. CJGT77 says, hi, Scientist Mel, good vibes. Not only is the misinformation bad, so are the conspiracy theories 5G phone signals are causing COVID. No, it's not. All right, now let's look at, now that I've completely ripped Dr. Oz a new one, let's look at his non-apology, because now he feels bad because people are yelling at him. I'm one of those people. Okay, I don't think you feel bad, Dr. Oz. I think you meant exactly what you had to say. So this is off of his Twitter. So let's have a look at this. Dr. Oz is sorry, guys. No, he's not. He doesn't care. Let's not pretend at all. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I've realized my comments on risks around opening schools have confused and upset people, which was never my intention. I misspoke. As a heart surgeon, I've spent my career fighting to save lives in the operating room by minimizing risks.
Okay. I never meant to say that, guys. I was a heart surgeon. Yes, you're very good at the heart surgeon stuff. You're terrible at everything else. You should never speak about anything else, Dr. Oz. Don't open your mouth and notice his background. Dr. Oz show. Y'all remember Dr. Oz show. Don't forget I have a show, by the way. That's, whatever.
At the same time, I'm being asked constantly, how will we be able to get people back to their normal lives? To do that, one of the important steps will be figuring out how do we get our children safely back to school.
No. Nobody's worried. People are worried more about having money and food and getting a job again. That's what most people are worried about, okay? Kids are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. People are more worried about, am I going to lose my house, Dr. Oz? That's what they're worried about. It's all monetary stuff, which we can completely take care of. We have it in our capability to have Medicare for all. We have it in our capability, but people don't want to do that because they don't want to have to help somebody else out because they, have billions of dollars. So Dr. Oz's non-apology here, he's not sorry at all. And he's not even retracting what he's saying. He's saying, well, we got to think about getting the kids back in school. We have technology. Give people internet. The kids mostly watch YouTube anyway. This is not a thing.
We know for many kids, school is a place of security, nutrition, and learning that is missing right now. These are issues we are all wrestling with.
Okay. For some kids, yes, nutrition and learning, but we're handling the nutrition with the districts. Learning, don't think this person's ever been in there's also bullying, which is a big problem. There's the school shootings thing. We don't have those right now. I've had to do shooter drills where, cram everybody in the lab closet and lock the door. That way it gives them 2 doors to get through. No windows in that room. Not allowed to have windows anymore so people can see in to see if you got kids in there. This is a non-apology. He's like, we need to open the schools. But, even though I said people are going to die from this virus, that's fine. I'm really thinking about the children. Are you, though? Are you? You're not.
And I will continue looking for solutions to beat this virus.
No, that's not your job, Dr. Oz. That's not your job. You don't need to look for solutions. That's not your job at all. None of that is your job. It's not my job to look for solutions either. So I don't. There's a thing called experts in the field. Those are the people who I listen to because that's their literal job. You don't know. I have to dust off my knowledge of virology, immunology. I do have the book learning, same as you. I got the book learning, probably a bit more than you, if I'm honest, at this point. Even though I don't have a MD, I don't have a PhD. Okay, I get that. I could, and I might do that. Maybe not this fall, but possibly next year, because where I work, they'll pay for it. So anyway, no, I probably have more book learning than you do, Dr. Oz. So let's just be frank right there. And the other thing I have is I listen to the experts. and I listen to what they say, and I learn what they have to say. And then I relate that to other people, and they're like, well, hey, what do you know? Okay, well, here you go. Here's the papers. Here's the stuff. Here's the information. I back up what I say. I don't misrepresent papers in journals for the sole purpose of saying, hey, guys, it ain't so bad. Let's open up the schools and kill, 8 million people. That's fine. We'll take a hit. Make certain those kids get meals every day. They already are. Okay, so no, he's not sorry. And people like Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil and individuals like that, Dr. Mercola, they make me nuts because people listen to them, and they're going to get people killed. So I don't often do like ranty stuff, but I do sometimes when you're legitimately dealing with somebody who's going to cost the lives of others. And he says all of the correct emotionally charged words. Think of the children. Think of this. There's hunger. There's poverty. There's all of these. It's not the same. It's unequal. It's completely unequal. I forget the fallacy that's associated with that. But they're pleading to the emotions of the viewers and saying, I know, people die of this, people die of swimming pools. And so it's like they always are pleading to the emotion of the viewers of whatever platform they're on. They knew exactly what they're doing. None of this at all should be believed. Dr. Oz does not care about people. And I really wish in so many medical, you know what, let's just get him off of the screen. I don't even like him. I wish, so many of medical professionals have written the university that he works at and said, you need to fire him. He pushes pseudoscience. He misrepresents science all the time. And they're like, well, that's his free speech. Yes, it is. But people with an audience can get other people killed. And what you say matters. What you say matters. Dr. Oz isn't stupid enough to tie his name to a science article or a scientific article in a science journal that would be associated with bad data. Because if he did, then he would be ruined because it would be linked to his expertise. But since he's talking outside of his expertise, since he's reaching out and pushing pseudoscience, he goes, well, technically I'm a heart surgeon, but y'all need to listen to me about all this other stuff. No, we don't. We don't. But that whole I'm a heart surgeon, I can throw out my clout here. You should listen to me. I have a book I'm probably going to do a series on. It's You, the Owner's Manual, written by Dr. Oz. And I think I will probably go through and start ripping it apart because he's made me mad. This is what I fight against all the time. Oh my God. Most people believe the quacks on TV. You're right. Be mindful. Thank you, Mel. That's why I watch a book-learned person like yourself from seeing you on Omni. Not a troll. Love Doc Savage. Agree with Mel. Well, thank you, Tamara. Oh, Doc Savage is a dear friend of mine. I love him to pieces. It's a good friend. He's awesome. Yep, those schools are still feeding those children. I come here when it comes up, and I'm learning through Mel as well. Tony Designs. Oh, good. I'm glad you're here tomorrow. To paraphrase, stupidity strikes deep into the heartland. It will creep. Yes. Yeah. Because our social systems suck, we must expose people to preventable diseases and deaths. Nether 6. Oh, my goodness. It's just... we could have saved money by avoiding random wall building. Oh my gosh, be mindful. Yep, shots fired. Oh my goodness. GPH. Do you feel the same about other pop doctors and scientists like Bill Nye? No, I don't. The moment these pop... And Bill Nye, he's a good science communicator. They're the ones that represent science in an accurate way. I like those. They're helpful. Bill Nye. Oh God, my nose itches. Y'all, I'm just gonna touch my face. I wash my hands all the time though. Oh God. So anyway, but the doctors, that are on TV that accurately represent the science. I love those. They're great. They're awesome. I like them. And I think, I appreciate what they do. And they do actually, the more voices we have promoting the correct information, the better we all are. So yes. Tony, she's not a troll. She's not a troll. She's all right. I think she's here to learn. I think she's here to learn. I agree with 5G involved with the combination of the deaths. I don't know about that, though, tomorrow. Alrighty. I'm catching up on the chat. Oh, guys, just as a heads up again, at the end of the month, I'm going to announce winners for our